Hi, good evening. Home language. It's the 27th of May. So it's week 10 now, and we are moving towards the end of the term. I'm so all quite thankful. As you can see, it's getting quite late. It's now 5:45, and it's been a freezing time in the Eastern Cape. We've had lovely rain, so hopefully our drought conditions will be a little bit lessened. I don't think so. Lots of snow around, so we are really freezing. But just very pleased about the rain. So I hope you're all doing well. You're staying safe. We're still in lockdown 4. Hopefully we all will stay on level 3 come Monday, 1st of June. And I'm hoping you're all a lot safe and you're keeping well and looking forward to getting back to normality in some sense. Right, let's move on. So tonight we move on to text for teaching literature. We have looked at reading, which is the whole theme of this unit, and in particular looked at actual reading of text, but also looking at reading of literature, and we've looked at short stories, novels, drama, and poetry last week. But this week, we're just looking at the texts that we can use, worksheets, approaches of these 3. So next week, we'll look again at film study, and the following week after that, we're looking at visual literacy. These are the sections that you could use in your that you will be using in your assignments. So it's good to use this bit of break time, which is what this week is, to start getting your 1, 2, and 3, your short story, your poem, and your reading text lessons done. Because next week will be the film study, and the following week will be visual literacy, and then it's going to be submission of assignment 3. Right, so if we look at the pictures here, we've got a bit of short story, Once Upon a Time, the end, a bit of poetry over there as well as the little insignature for tragedy and comedy in drama, the kind of text we're going to look at. And also to keep on reading all the time. Reading makes us what we are, allows us to move around the world, to see things and experience whatever we need to experience through the writing in the book, through the author's words. Okay. Hi, so I thought I'd keep the Mentimeter in because let's just see how you're feeling. I'm just giving you back a memory of how you were coping. And from last week, you can see equal number of you were stressed, overwhelmed, and motivated. Hopefully that you have moved on from these areas and that most of you are feeling empowered and managing and persevering, that you are feeling good and positive. So because you've had a little break, you only had to do your online tracking last week. You've only got to do online tracking this week, and you've got plenty of time now to work on those sections of your assignment. So most of you, I'm sure, are feeling motivated at this point. I'm going to do another Mentimeter soon, so hopefully a lot more positive responses, and those of you that are feeling confused and nervous and stressed are going to be able to breathe and feel a lot better about where we're going. So hang in there. We can do this. Right. So again, as we see each time, we have now come to the 25th of May, which is, I think, was on Monday, and your online tracking assignment was, your mini assignment was moved on to that date for everyone. And I see the numbers have gone up a bit, I think about 2 or 3 per group. 29th of May is this Friday night, before the 1st of June, level 3 heralding, and we're going to be looking at the drama and poetry online tracking. That was all you had to do, and I think some of you have, well, I think quite a few have already done that tracking event. Assignment 3 is then due in on the 22nd of June. Go and look on week 7, and the new revised assignment 3 is there. And then right at the end of June, 24th I'm pushing for, is your reflection. Go and look under general, and you'll see the new revised reflection task is there as well. Okay. Right, so I'm looking forward to seeing what you say about this course. So there you are, there's the 22nd of June. We've looked at week 7, the reading sections. We've looked at short stories in the novel, but you don't have to worry about a short story this time. And then the poetry from last week, you have to do an activity based on a poem. From next week will be something on the film study, so start thinking about that. It could be connected to a drama or anything else. And then visual literacy for week 12. There is your reflection task. It's so important to think back on things because it helps you, gives you hindsight. right from the distance learning perspective to looking at language teaching and theoretical backgrounds, to your skills that you've gained, to your achievements, to your challenges, to recommendations, especially for future distance learning students doing PGCE. What would you recommend? 1,500 words, not really a lot at all, with specific examples and reasons for what you are saying, and to include references as well. So that's all your reflection. Right, let's as always look at what's happening in terms of submissions for home language. As you can see, I've got FET and SP. I've got a 28 and a 38. The 28 is my active students, although they say there are 38 students enrolled. I've got 28 active, and for SP I've got 44 active, although they say there are 61 enrolled. So I'm not too sure what that means, but I go with the red, I go for the active. So on week 9, which is not too bad, so I've got lots to be happy about. There's still 8 of you from FET out of 28 that have submitted the online task, but you've got until Friday night to do that. The week 8 task, the mini assignment, I gave you till Monday night to submit, and those numbers went up again. So again, the 20, it seems like there should be about 22 FETs submitting, and 32 for SP, looks like the right number. I'm sure the 19 will go right up this week as well. So I've only got one little arrow going up, which makes me happy, and I don't have to feel so sad. So thank you for all the hard work, all the emails coming in and staying in touch. Hopefully that the next week, this week will also be an online 10 little questions that will be quick and easy to do, and you can rather concentrate on your assignment 3. Okay, let's get on with this. Okay, there's our unit 3. It's all reading. We've looked at reading theories. We've looked at literature now. We've got as far as looking at Ferreira, chapter 12. We haven't actually moved on from Ferreira 12 with our drama last week. And the yellow highlight this week is choosing suitable texts for literary studies. It's basically looking at resources you can use for these different genres. And then we'll get on to the rest after that. Okay. So let's first look at the CAPS document, what it says about teaching literature. I was actually quite impressed with the theoretical perspectives it gave to teaching literature and the importance of reading for the students in the classroom. If you look at the little quote on the right-hand side, it says, "The thing about books, they let you travel without moving your feet." So if you are into reading, you can travel in your mind and go anywhere you want to. You might be in lockdown and level 4 restrictions of running and freedom, but in your mind you can travel wherever you want to. And every time I walk in the mornings, I take my Audible with me. So I'm at the moment in Cyprus and Greece, so you can go wherever you want to be. So isn't that a wonderful experience to have? Right, so this is the outline. We're first going to look at CAPS approaches, then we're going to look at different activities, tasks, and approaches, then specifically at the different genres. Reading, poetry, short story, novel, and drama. And the quote on the right says, "Without literature, life is hell." And I'm hoping many of you are feeling the same way. If you never had any literature, life would really be tough. And then we can look at some worksheet examples where you can go and get them. Okay, so let's look at the CAPS approach. And the quote says here, "A teacher takes a hand, opens a mind, and touches a heart." So let's hope we're all those kind of teachers that are taking hands of our students, especially as we go back on the 1st of June. Quite scary moments for everyone, I think, with the C-19 and the whole sanitization, PPE, all these things we need to make sure that we are effective teachers and safe teachers. But we need to touch those hearts. Okay, right. So the main reason for reading literature, according to CAPS, and I agree with it, is to develop in learners a sensitivity to a special use of language. It's not direct use of language, it's language at its most beautiful, and let them be sensitive to the beauty of language so it can touch their hearts. It's language that is refined, literary, it comes from literature, it's figurative rather than literal, using figures of speech, using personification, metaphors, similes, and so on. It's symbolic. if you speak about a dove, you're not actually speaking about the bird, you might be speaking about peace. It's deeply meaningful, so it really moves you, your soul and your heart when you read it. Much more than anything else you read, whether it be something on the internet or online or a newspaper, somehow literature will touch you in unexpected ways because of the beauty of the way language is used. Right, so with CAPS, most literary texts, whether they are entertaining you, amusing you, or giving you a revelation, whether they are be put in novels, plays, or poems, they are special because they share the ideas, the thoughts, the principles, and the ideologies that the author wants to share with you. So it's a special message that's coming across to you that they want to share with you as the reader. And writers' imaginative use of language enables them to reveal and highlight and reinforce these thoughts and principles and ideas with their readers. And you've got to be able to lead your students into appreciate that sensitivity of language within these genres. Here's another quote. What is literature? It deals with ideas, thoughts, and emotions of man couched in beautiful language. Okay, so there we go. Right, again the quote, seems like into quotes. The best teachers are those who show you where to look, but don't tell you what to see. Okay, so we must be mindful that we're not telling our students what they must experience when they read, but let them determine that and find that out for themselves. Right. So teaching literature is actually not easy. So I'm sure if you've done it, you'll agree with me. But it is a way that learners can come and see things themselves in their own personal and honest and thoughtful way, how they can interpret things. They have to learn how to understand this on their own. And if you don't enable them to understand the sensitivity and beauty in language, they will not have learned much. So this is your job as a teacher. And so as a teacher, again, you have to restrain yourself from going ahead and telling your students everything. Allow them to interpret from the text. Expose them to language as such. Yes, and interpretation is not right or wrong. So if they feel something and they can explain and support it, then it's fine. Allow them to see what is right for them. It need not be right in your eyes, but if it's right for them, it's fine. And so they, as readers, can search for things. Right. So in CAPS, the reading approach is very central to the whole idea. That's why I've got the whole of Unit 3 is reading. If you're in the class, read as much of the text as you can, they say, in class without breaking for any other activity. So have these concentrated periods in your class where you're actually reading the text with the students. Do not take more than 2 weeks, so says CAPS, to do this. It's essential that readers or learners have a clear idea of what is going on at the most basic level. So this is why you read the story or the poem or the drama so they can get a basic idea of what is actually going on in Hamlet, in Othello, in Julius, Antony, Romeo and Juliet. But an interesting word here, deleterious. Spending too long on reading the text is deleterious. That means it is very harmful. It hurts, it injures a clear understanding of the narrative line and part. So that means you've got a way getting through the basic text, but not spending too long and boring the life out of your students. Right, so that's wrong. If your classes can go without you having to read it, without the support needed, please encourage them to do that. Give them little sections to read, enable them, give them silent reading time within the class to read as well. And you can see that I've inserted quite a few links here where you can go to SlideShare here and get some information about this as well. So check at the bottom of all my slides, you'll see quite a few links. Right, so that is what you should do as teachers. You should give them encouragement to read and enable them to read, even in reading groups. So we start teaching approaches. Whole purpose of teaching literary texts to students is that they can see how their home language, whether it be Afrikaans, Xhosa, or Zulu, or Sepedi, how their language can be used with subtlety, intelligence, imagination, and flair, so they can appreciate the beauty of their home language. That means taking a close look at how the text is being created, manipulated, and rearranged. So they have to be enabled to see how literature, how poetry, how drama unfolds language. And that means critically analyzing the actual language used in the text. And this is what they're going to have to that's what they're going to have to examine. They're going to have to look at, is there imagery in this drama, or isn't there? Why isn't there? Why is it so direct? Or why is there so much imagery? What kind of imagery is the writer using? Why did he select crowns and jewels? Or why did he select clothing? I mean, they said your clothing sits loose on you. It doesn't actually mean your clothing is you lost weight, but it means you're not fitting into what you are saying. So those things are very, very important. Also looking at sentence structures and paragraphing, the layout of the poems. Remember, we looked at daybreak last time. Is it in couplets? Is it in rhyming scheme? Is it iambic pentameter? What kind of structure is the poem being used? What words or motifs are they using? Why do they use those words in the poetry, or those ideas in terms of motifs? What about the symbols they use, the sounds, the color, the imagery? Those things are to be analyzed and thought about by students. They must have the language and the words and equipped to do this. And all of this work is text-based. That's why it's reading. It's all in the word, the literature, and they've got to closely unravel it and unpack it and so on. But if you're going to go line by line analysis, this is also destructive to the subtlety. And there's nothing more boring than going line by line without getting a full idea and analyzing each word, because it could actually also destroy it for your learners. Okay. Right. Reading literature is a process in which the reader should engage actively. So it means not, again, the teacher doing everything, but the student learning to engage with poetry and with drama and with the short story, and having the tools to actually analyze and know what they're looking for. Right, so we're going to go through the different genres now. We're going to start with reading, and some of these sections I'm going to give you an approach that you can use to analyze or how to work it, or I might be giving you worksheets of things that you can use to analyze this. You can see the sun starting to setting. I'm just starting to think if I'm going to have to put a light on. Okay, so we're going to look at what we call here literature circles. It's very much like a book club, but you can see there's a whole group of students. They're all reading in a class, and a literature circle is like a structured book club within your class situation. And you can use this from grade 8 to grade 12. It's not just for grade 8s or grade 7s or grade 10s. It's for the whole high school phase. You can use this approach there as well. So students read a group, so students in a group read a story or a book together, and then they complete a number of activities. They do this singly and as a group. Remember our individual, intrapersonal, and our interpersonal, the importance of working with these together. Then they have specific tasks which they are designed for them so they can participate and engage with the story. So this is how they actually work with it. So we have students working on one book, doing different tasks, singly, individually, interpersonally, and then they come together and they get engaged together on the different tasks. So we're into reading circles and how they should function. If you look on the right, there's a poster there which says reading circles. This is where they put the name of their book, the date, all the information, and these are the different roles that they will assume. There's 6 roles. So you've got groups of 6 in your class, and each one will have a specific role, each of those students. The group reads the same book, and then they complete individual tasks, and once they finish, they come together as a group to discuss that. Right, so what are these groups? First one is the discussion director. Now this person will go and identify different questions which he feels, or she feels, should be answered by the group, and he will, or she will, just list these questions and then go and discuss it and get answers from the group. So this is someone who must give open-ended questions. Why do you think the hero of the story did not want to meet the antagonist, for instance. All right, and then those are the questions you will, after you read a chapter or 2 chapters, you will have all these questions which you'll go and discuss. The summarizer writes a summary of what happened in the story. And you can do this chapter by chapter or section by section, but they will summarize. This will also go back to the group, and after he's written or she's written a summary, and they will say what they feel should be taken out, what should be added, and so on. The word wizard, this is the person that can go and look for difficult words that he feels that might be a challenge for the people in the group, and then he'll find definitions for those words in the story. Then we have the illustrator, person who's arty, perhaps. Remember our differentiated education. This person will illustrate an important scene from the story. Now, remember, you don't actually have to go and draw it. You could go and get an image, a picture, or draw tools, or something to represent what you think that important event was. The real-life connector, interestingly, this person will connect events in the story to something what's happened in their lives. Okay, so it might have been a ship going down, or an aeroplane crash, or someone experiencing a trauma, and they will link these to events that they've experienced. The story connector is the person that will connect the events to other stories. So if you think about Little Red Riding Hood, and you think about the 3 pigs, well, how can these 2 be connected? Well, they're both there. I think there are wolves in both of them. So in some way they're connected. And there's also the hero, Little Red Riding Hood, who's able to overcome the disaster that was around with the wolf. And so does the one little pig. So they both overcome the evil antagonist. Okay, something like that. There's the worksheets. The different group members will have different worksheets. And these are examples of them, the kinds of worksheets you give the discussion director, the summarizer, the illustrator, the word wizard, different vocab words. This is what he or she could use, the definition, the part of speech, the sentence from the book, the sentence that they use, and they could go through the words like this. Then you have the real life connector. Again, how this connects with their lives, how this connects with other stories. Always thinking about the author's message throughout. This is the big idea. So a lot of these questions will be relating to what is the big idea that the author is trying to get across to the reader. And understanding this message will help you to understand the story often. What is the message about the 3 little pigs? Let's go back to it. Roween, I'm thinking about you because you asked me about the 3 little pigs. That we must actually work hard. I think daybreak too is not to let up and to keep on working, the urge to work and do things properly. What is the message from Little Red Riding Hood? What is it from Goldilocks? Okay, all those messages. What is the writer, what message is he trying to get through to you? This is interesting. I saw this little text message I got off the internet. We send text messages all the time to phones. Sometimes they're long, sometimes they're short. But if you get a text message like this, what would the message be that the author is trying to get across to you, the writer? And you see, you can use everyday things for this kind of work. This is what the text says. I have nothing if I don't have you. I want no one else but you. And it sucks that there are miles between us. But those miles mean nothing because when I think about you, I'm happy. And I'll not quit for someone who lives near me. We will beat this distance. I promise you. It's just a test. So what message does this writer want to get across to the person he or she loves? Okay, that distance means nothing in love, that you can overcome anything if you really love someone. Isn't that quite sweet? But you could have lots of little texts like this and they could determine what the author's message is from that. Right, so we can look at poetry reading now. We've done looking at an idea to look at reading texts, reading books, you're reading book clubs, reading literature circles, one way to get students into reading and get them actively working on different tasks. It says here poetry is supposed to be read aloud, so this is obviously something you must encourage your students to read poems aloud. Okay, there's a big cross there. And this is from CAPS. It says poetry should be taught, not the poems. So you don't expect them to recite the poems, but you teach them, give them the tools to actually analyze and speak about poetry from the figurative use of languages, from the poetry structure, from the message, from the connotations, from the rhyme scheme, those things. Those are the tools that equip a student to be able to speak about poetry. Read as many poems as possible in class. Teachers, don't be scared of poems, love poems, bring them in anywhere, get them to write little poems. Even if it's got nothing to do with poetry, encourage your students to use their poetic side and to feel out language and write with that. Okay, read as many poems as possible in class. Ensure that your learners read and write poems as well. There you go. From the CAPS document, not just teaching them to recite poetry, but learning how to analyze poetry. Okay, this is one of the analyzing tools that you could use, like literature circles. You could use the SWIFT analysis. Maybe you've come across this already, but it's one where you can analyze poetry. The S stands for structure. So if you're going to analyze a poem, and these acronyms are quite nice for students because they know the SWIFT approach. They could go into any exam and they could analyze a poem. So first one, the structure part, they can look at the poem visually and they're going to note what they see. Then they will look at it closer and they'll look at the lines, stanzas, the different verses, the rhyme scheme, are they couplets, iambic pentameter, and what kind of poem is it? Is it a lyrical poem? Is it an ode, a ballad, haiku? I'm bringing back here again what we remember from last week, the daybreak, and there you can see the 9 rhyming couplets. You can see the different sound devices that are there with the wind moving as the writer moves, the wind moves from area to area and you get the feel of the wind. The W stands for word choice. Why does the poet or the writer use those words? What are their connotations? That means, what do they imply? We speak about red, or we speak about clarion, or we speak about touch. What kind of connotations do we have? Why does the poet choose these words? And also think about the tone that comes in with the word choice. If you think about the words like it hailed, why did he say hailed? What about bowing? What is the impact of bowing? What about it shouted? Okay, what's the connotations with that? So these are all things, and I think shout is actually repeated quite a few, so it's also repetition of words of very powerful means that come across to get the message across. Imagery, remember the pictures that come into your mind when you read a poem or read a story. What pictures do you see when you see the wind moving from one area to another? When you hear the word like whispered or shouted or touched or held? What are the connotations? What vivid language do you see within this poem that you think really makes you think about what the poet is speaking about? And how does it appeal to your senses? I was just looking at the one about when the corn has to bow down. And if you think about the story of Joseph in his dream, where the corn bowed down to show that to the other sheaves of corn. So the image could also come from a biblical perspective from the story of Joseph as well. Okay, so we're into the F part, which is the figurative language. Not just figurative language in the poem, is why is figurative language being used? Why does the wind take on the voice of the poet, Longfellow, when it shouts, it hails, it speaks, it whispers? All right, so to think about why figurative language has been used, and what is the impact of that use of the imagery of those figurative language that we actually see? We look at the little insert here. It's got structure again, word choices, imagery, figurative language, theme and tone, and it's got all the explanations for each section there as well. And then finally, theme and tone, the T section. What is the poet's message? Remember with Daybreak, it was the urge to keep on working and not to stop working. And what is the statement about life that the poet is making, or the writer making? That can be applied universally to all people. Remember the urge to work, maybe to not have conflict with Macbeth, not to give into ambition, that is still relevant today. When we talk about different races, different sexes, even the time period we're living in, a lot of the messages that go way back are still relevant to us today. Right, there's the theme. The theme is the writer's message or main idea is what the writer wants you to remember the most. And there are all the themes, right from loyalty to friendship to determination to self-improvement, all these themes that come across. Right, we're going to go on to the short story, a novel. We basically looked at that practical criticism, and we looked at the different sections of the novel, from the plot to the setting, to the climax, to the denouement, to the resolution, and so on. So if you are doing this kind of work with a short story, it's also nice to have a worksheet where you can look at tell me more about the characters, the setting, and the events, and you could have a whole lot of questions going down the side, and groups could get together to complete these questions. And so you could read these questions there. I've put in the link as well, so you can actually go and read it. Let me just have a look what it says here. How would you describe the event? All right. How does the event affect the rest of the story? How does the event affect the characters in the story? It's all about the event in the story. What is the event? Why is this event important to the story? Why is Macbeth killing Duncan important to the story? What do you feel about this event? Why do you feel that way? How did you feel when this happened in the story? Did you feel disappointment? Did you feel happy? Did you feel frustrated? I'm reading a story called The Olive Tree now, and I get very frustrated with the story because I can't believe the character acted in a certain way. And so we will wait for the denouement where it'll actually explain why the character acted in a certain way, so we can actually understand why they did that. Or we might not ever be able to understand why they acted like that. All right, there is again a visual explanation. So you can also give out these worksheets to the students with a different visual of how the story goes, the plot, the climax, the denouement, the tailing up and the coming down. And then there's another one about the 3 pegs. You can see there's many events here. The exposition, what did the little pig do? The first one, he built his house of straw. What did the wolf do? He blew it down. The next one used wood. What did the wolf do? The rise in action blew it down. And the clever little piggy that used bricks. Okay, we get right to the climax. And what happens is the wolf can't get that pig because he can't blow the house down, and goes up the chimney, falls into the pot. And I didn't really know this, that the piggy ate him, made a ham sandwich, I think, we say there, or not a ham sandwich, maybe a nice beef sandwich with the naughty wolf. Okay, so that's the story going up and the story falling down, the different actions. So you could have a look at the story like that. And there's another worksheet with the exposition, the rising action, the climax, the falling action, and the resolution. And there's another one that you could use. You get the different characters, how it goes up and how it's down. So these are nice ways that you could have many short stories, and you could have the students analyzing the short story using these different concepts within the short story. And this is also quite a nice one. It's per chapter. So each chapter you would do a different kind of activity. So if you look at the first one, it says here it's vocabulary. They go and pick different vocab words. Then you'd draw something from the next chapter. Then it's be alphabet soup, different kinds of concepts. Then it'll be a collage, grammar, and then identify different types of words that are used. Write a poem and predict what's going to happen. Different characters, match characters that you know with someone else. And then a comic strip, draw a comic strip. So you can actually be quite creative in this and use a different activity, or once you've completed a book, different groups have a different activity to complete on every chapter of the book, or every different sections of the short story as well. Okay, this little short story has different character traits. It's quite nice, this little worksheet, because you've got different character traits of the different things, different words you can use to describe the different characters. For instance, if someone is smart or funny or annoying or bad or creative, and they're all different words that you could use to describe a person who is like this. And again, there is the link that you can have to go and check this out. This is about the character. Again, nice worksheet. You can choose any character or characters, and then you can have the appearance, what I like, what he likes, what she dislikes, what the character thinks, what you like about the character, what you don't like about the character. And so you can do all kinds of activities based on this character. character analysis essay, and then you've got different traits. You explain the traits and then always provide evidence of why you say they've got that trait. So that's another worksheet you could have. And again, different characters, draw them, a lovely group task that you could actually complete with quotes from the actual story, events, different descriptions, adjectives to describe the character. So these are little worksheets to use. Okay, I'm getting on to drama now. These are little impromptu warmers that you can have within your class. Little drama role play where you get them to act out little scenes. They've got to tell their teacher they haven't done their work. They've got to tell their parent they've done something. So all the different things they can actually do within the classroom to act out certain things as a fun start. These are all theatrical terms that you could go through with your class. Looking at backdrop cue, and you've got all the definitions there as well. Here's another type of worksheet with all the different elements of the drama, what the tools are, what the plot is, what the structure is, setting, the cast of characters, and then you could give them a worksheet which they would have to go and complete with those definitions. So it's just a kind of little add-on activity. There again is the different drama issues, the props, the theatre, the acts and what they mean. And then you can have the same kind of thing where they can say, how does this help the reader? So they would have to think about it. They've got the element, the playwright, they've got the definition of what it is and how it can help the actual reader. And there's a drama review, the title, the main characters, who is your favorite character and why? Do you like this drama? Why or why not? Let them reflect on it, and it's quite a nice way to finish. You can do this per act, per scene, per short story as well. Here's another thing for in your matric, I suppose, or in varsity, how you can go through every little line. Remember, this can be quite tedious. Speaking about who Angus is, where did he first appear in the play? What does it mean when he says his clothes hang on him like a giant robe? Speaking about Macbeth, he's now a dwarfish thief. All the different ideas that you could annotate from an extract like this and then actually teach it this way. Okay, this is just an example of using an extract from a play or a poem or a short story. You could have a warmer is what they call it, or your pre-lesson, to get them to thinking about the topic. You get them to discuss things in pairs or as a whole class, guessing games, brainstorming of vocab around the topic, all kinds of discussion you could have before you actually start the play or the story or the poem. Or you could do it in terms of considering the literature source by looking at what students know about this time or this author, what was happening. You might give them some background and get them to go and read up on it. You could explain why this poem or this poet was well known. Maybe it's a modern form they've used. So these are two different ones. The second one is more culturally, the other one is more about vocab and words. So these are different warm-up type activities you can. So before reading it, sometimes you have to pre-teach difficult words. I don't like pre-teaching in that way. I like them to go and determine the words that they can find out themselves. So it's a little note there is that the second one there is that teachers can kill the text. And there's my dagger. By spending too much time on the pre-reading stage, by going through every little word and possible meaning can be quite tedious for your students. So just be careful of that. So it says you limit this. If there's more than 7 or 8 words, it means that this text is too difficult. So you have to explain every second word. Just rather steer away from it. It's too difficult for your students. Then you go through the predicting stage. Give them some words and ask them to predict what's going to happen. If you've got the words kill, murder, crime, obviously they're going to predict. You've got rose, love, petals. Those are things might be another kind of story. Or give them some lines of a dialogue and say to them, oh, what do you think is going to happen now when he said this, she said that, and they said that? You know, get them to predict things. So give different groups different lines from a play and ask them to predict what's going to happen. Then give them a taste of what they're going to be read about. Read the first part of a story, a book. Sometimes those are quite nice because it really makes them want to listen more or read more. Go over it quickly. Ask them to compare what they thought and what they understood and get them to repeat back what they thought. You could read that again to them if it's going to help. And then you say to them, okay, now open your books and you read about it now. And that way you've encouraged them to actually start reading that story or that poem because you've got them intrigued by it. Then we've got stage 3, understanding the text, general comprehension. Often with extracts of a poem, the teacher will read the whole thing to the students so they can get a feel for the text. And this can be quite powerful if you choose the right part. If you really got a little bite out of the text, which is really intriguing, especially if it's a murder or a crime or something of love, they'll want to read more. Then let them read themselves, okay? And without giving them a specific task, we often overdo it. We kill with words, we kill with tasks. Let them simply read and enjoy the task, the reading. Let them read it for pleasure. Don't have to do a task with everything. I'm a bit of a problem there because I think the only way I know they've done something is if they've actually taken and done some work with it. Right, once they have read it once, then you can set some questions or ask them to explain some key words for you and why it was used in that text. Another way of checking comprehension is to ask students to explain to each other in pairs what they understood. So what did you understand about this? And let them explain, and then you could have some other subjective questions as well. So these are the kind of questions you could ask. Why do you think X said this? All right. How do you think this woman feels? Okay. What made him do this? And these are the kind of subjective questions. Remember, not right or wrong. Allow them to answer these questions. Stage 4 is understanding the language of the extract. These are the more difficult words, and it's good for them to go that X+1 to increase their understanding and proficiency levels. See how many unfamiliar words they can get from the text. All right, and I'm sure they'll find all of them as well. Say, I want you to find 5 words that you don't know from the text. I don't think you're going to have to give them clues. I think they will find it. Also, style. Is it a very flowery style? Is it a very direct style? Is it a very subjective style? Is it a very terse style? These are ways you can actually explore different styles with them. What about connotations? Why is that word used? Why did he say whisper? Why did he say shout? Okay. For instance, if the text says she had long, skinny arms. Okay. There's long, skinny arms. What does it say about the author's impression of the woman? If someone says you've got long, skinny arms, but if the author says she had long, slender arms, okay, one is quite positive, one is quite negative. So often words have different connotations. You might like skinny, but someone might like slender. Remember, nothing's right or wrong. Right, so we're getting on to stage 5, follow-up activities, and you have completely read the extract, the piece of literature that you were busy with. And it might naturally lead on to one or more follow activities. Remember, we've spoken about discussion and we've spoken about writing. I think my laptop's coming down a bit. But another way you can actually have a follow-up activity is getting the students to anticipate the poem content, this whole prediction part of it, which is like quite nice, by doing an exercise such as the following. Here we've got a poem called A Child's Scandal. Now, this is a word that maybe your students won't know the meaning of, and there's a lot to discuss about scandals. Do we like scandals? I think we do. They come out all over, they pop up all over the place, and people seem to relish them. But this is quite a nice prediction that you could have with this kind of topic. So you could give them the topic and say, maybe once you're sure they all understand what scandal means, you can give them 2 minutes to write down any thoughts that they might have associated with this kind of poem. Let them write down just freely to brainstorm what it could be. And there's the word scandal. And then give them a chance to discuss what it's all about. They can compare answers. It can be quite intriguing. They can even write their own ending to this whole story without even knowing what the poem is about. And this is a lovely way to predict. So if you've got a nice enticing title, this is a nice little activity to have as a follow-up, just to finish something off. Maybe you've done a whole poem or short story about scandals, and now you bring the idea of a child scandal, and they can actually take it to the next level with this. So I think it's quite an exciting way to finish off something, and it's quite intriguing and interesting. So let's move on now. This is last thing. We're coming on to the end, so don't stress. This is just an assignment. It's called Think, Research, Create approach. It's another approach to looking at literature. You can pick any short story or poem. It's part of the search is for them to go and do an overview of the background of the writer, or the time of the poem, or the short story, and then to highlight 3 aspects of the text that are interesting. Okay, so that's 2 things. Then to write a script for an informational video about that. So they're looking at the background, they're looking at 3 aspects that are interesting, then they're going to write a script for some short video. They're going to create the video, and then they're going to pose 3 questions to the audience for them to answer. So each of the groups, or in singles or individually, can go and create this video, looking at the poem and presenting it to the class. So 3 questions which the class will have to answer. And here is the link as well for that. And then they said you could use Adobe Voice Video to do this, or you can just do PowerPoint like I'm doing, and then change it to, with your MP3 you can have a video, or just upload to YouTube. The one I'm showing you now is from a TED Talk from one of my students in the UAE. She was looking at a TED Talk, and she just put a little informational thing about what it was about using visual literacy.
Hi guys, I am going to tell you about a TED Talk called How to Gain Control of Your Free Time. We have to have time for good things and activity. Also, we have many things to organize time management. For example, play sports instead of watching TV. This is a good way to save time and get anything we want. According to Laura, the speaker, build our lives we want in the same time we've got. There are 168 hours in each week, so we find time for what matters most. The key for time management is everything you do, every minute you spend is your choice.
Okay, so you get the idea of what you could do, and then you'd have 3 questions at the end to ask the class. This gives the students a chance to work as groups, as very much like the literature circles. They all have something to do. Maybe in the group, each one has to look for a different aspect that was interesting. Maybe someone has to look for the background, and they put the text together, then they create the video, each of them speaking with the questions, and they present this to the class. It's a lovely combined, and it's quite exciting, the task for them to do. Okay.
Hi guys.
So I'm going on. So finally, activities linked to reading. And what CAPS has also said is that creative writing links very nicely to literary text, as well as classroom discussion. So these are 2 things you should always include if you have got something to do with literature and you want to follow on task. Always have a writing task or discussion task. And the last statement here says they both have a good role to play. All right. Class discussions that lead to written work serve as a clearer purpose and benefit both. So it's a good practice to have both of those. And finally, it is important to point out that literature is not about right answers. Okay, and hopefully this comes across very nicely, that you realize that whatever the students choose, and if they do choose to see something and they can support it, you've achieved a lot within your classroom. So be that teacher they love. Okay, a teacher is a compass that activates the magnets of curiosity, knowledge, and wisdom in pupils. So if you can be that kind of teacher, you have achieved so much. Right, so that's it. Next week it is another CAN presentation. It is on film study. And there's the little exits there. I'll let you into my soul, but wipe your feet at the door. Okay, so don't mess up my soul. Keep loving drama as well as your short stories. So have a good evening, and I'll chat to you next week. Chat soon. Bye.